Hello, my name is Stu Adler, a professor of chemical engineering at the University of Washington. This video briefly describes the Energy Information Nexus, a new industry-university cooperative research center being proposed by my colleagues at UW, the Colorado School of Mines, and the University of California, Irvine. Our goal is to aid companies seeking new approaches to powering the cloud, which can reduce bottlenecks to growth and provide new technological pathways to low-emission power. All cloud services, including this website and video, are hosted somewhere in a data center. Data centers have grown rapidly from server rooms within existing businesses to an independent heavy industry. Already, data centers consume 2% of all the electric power produced in the United States, and this demand is growing rapidly, about 12% per year, and accelerating. So how we power data centers in the future will have an enormous impact on the growth of cloud services and the sustainability of energy use in our society. Growth of new data centers is currently constrained by a number of factors, but chief among them is electrical power, including local availability and cost of that power, reliability of the electrical infrastructure in general, as well as concerns about the carbon footprint and other emissions associated with electrical power production. The vision of our center is to help data centers break free from these constraints by embedding key elements of power production and storage into the data center itself. This idea is driven by three principal considerations. The first is availability of electrical power. Competition is stiff among cloud service companies to find new locations that have sufficient land and human resources, unused electrical capacity, an appropriate climate or other resources for cooling, and low latency to and from the internet. As cloud services continue to grow, differentiate, and become more intertwined, the task of siting new data centers will only become more complex and competitive. A second major issue is the reliability of electrical infrastructure. Powering a data center via the grid involves a long and complex chain of interdependent systems, including generation, distribution, transforming, routing, and rectification of AC power. This chain has many points of failure, and thus additionally requires complex and expensive battery and diesel backup systems to ensure sufficient reliability. These factors contribute significantly to the risk, cost, and complexity of building and maintaining cloud infrastructure. Finally, a third principal consideration is the carbon footprint and other emissions associated with electrical power. Many cloud service customers and providers have stated goals to maintain growth while also reducing or eliminating their carbon footprint. However, in many cases these goals are at odds with the CO2 and other emissions associated with grid power, over which these companies have little direct control. Other than advocating for changes in nationwide energy policy, it is currently difficult for cloud service companies and their customers to directly impact the sustainability of their energy use. The central premise of our center is that by embedding power production and storage into the data center itself, companies in the cloud service sector can free themselves from the constraints I just described, in addition to providing numerous other synergies. As an example, rechargeable lithium batteries are quickly reaching commodity status, with a robust supply chain and economies of scale. Recent advances such as flow batteries may expand even further the scale and types of systems that can store electrical energy. Imagine if batteries could be widely deployed in data centers, such that racks could operate independent of the grid for many hours or even days. Besides not needing centralized backup systems with a single point of failure, like a generator, data centers could purchase and store low-cost excess wind and solar power, which would otherwise be wasted, and then use or even sell that energy back to the grid when it's needed. By embedding the storage at the rack or pod level, it would naturally scale with data capacity, while also providing overwhelming redundancy, which allows 100% reliability without a separate backup system. This approach would give data centers much greater control over the source of energy they're using. Another example is the use of distributed power based on fuel cells. Currently, about 1/3 of electrical power in the US is produced from natural gas. One possible approach is to power individual racks or pods within a data center with ceramic or polymer-based fuel cells, which consume reformed natural gas and air, exhaust water and CO2, and produce high-voltage DC power without need of rectification. If this could be done cost-effectively, it would completely free data centers from the electrical grid. In addition, by distributing power production among tens or hundreds of redundant systems, power could be made 100% reliable without the need for a centralized backup system. Although natural gas is carbon-based, fuel cells can easily operate with electrically generated fuels like hydrogen derived from wind and solar power. Thus, this approach puts data centers on a technological pathway where their infrastructure will already be ready for these fuels, rather than having to adapt later using unproven technologies with an underdeveloped supply chain. Other possible synergies include the use of waste heat from power production to drive cooling and water recovery. The Energy Information Nexus will be a unique industry-university cooperative center, guided and funded directly by industrial members. Our goal is to bring together leading companies spanning the entire cloud service supply chain, including cloud service companies, infrastructure providers, energy technology developers, and utilities, as well as leading university researchers to help explore and accelerate adoption of energy technology into data centers. While this effort is and must be led by industry, we believe that by engaging academia in this process also, consortium participants stand to gain many benefits relative to purely commercial exploration. These include accelerated development and improved forecasting, made possible by pre-competitive research and techno-economic analyses conducted by academic researchers, leveraged R&D resources among center members that also take full advantage of existing state and federally funded infrastructure, training of people with the right combination of skills in both energy and information technology, and a broad understanding of the challenges faced by the cloud service sector, and a forum for exchanging thought leadership, developing standards, and forging new industrial and academic partnerships. If this vision appeals to you and you think it could potentially benefit your company, please consider attending our interactive webinar, where we will provide more information about the center, its resources, and the proposed structure of the consortium. The remaining pages of this website contain more information about the EIN and its participants, as well as contact and registration information. Please also consider attending the first planning meeting for the consortium in late 2020 or early 2021. We need your ideas, input, and support to make it happen. Thanks for listening.